Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. And yes, the title is correct. Star Trek Discovery is ending with its 5th season. And I'm not pulling this from some website like Bounding Into Comics or We Got This Covered. This is coming from The Hollywood Reporter, the article titled Star Trek Discovery to End with Season 5. After resurrecting Trek on TV and launching a new generation of sci-fi content, Discovery will have its final voyage next year being 2024. Star Trek Discovery is coming to an end. The Paramount Plus sci-fi drama will embark on its final voyage with its upcoming 5th season. Sources say principal filming of the season is mostly complete, but with this move to end the show, there will be additional filming to help craft a conclusion for the series. The 5th and final season will premiere in early 2024. Now remember that part that we just read, because I'm going to circle back to it by the end. Launched in 2017, Discovery is credited with successfully launching a new era of Trek TV. They're not wrong in that regard, because the last Star Trek show to come out before Discovery was Enterprise, and Enterprise was canceled back in 2005. So, yes, to be fair to the Hollywood Reporter, they're not wrong when they're saying that Discovery did successfully launch a new era of Trek TV. The series starring Sonequa Martin Green was heralded as the first Trek show headed by a black female lead, and that to me was the funniest part of Star Trek Discovery's marketing. Right, when the reveal was shown and they zoom in on Sonequa Martin Green and really push her front and center, I was sitting there thinking, well, they can't push the fact that she's the first black lead, because that goes to Avery Brooks in Deep Space Nine. They can't push the fact that this is the first Star Trek show with a female lead, because that goes back to Star Trek Voyager back in 1995 with Kate Mulgrew as Captain Janeway. So if you're trying to be the first of something, well, what's the first you can do? You can be the first Star Trek show to have a black female lead. What was next after that? The goalpost would shift like so wildly. It would be insane if you were to try to continue down that road. Plus marked other firsts along the way in LGBTQ representation. Yeah, weren't they touting that what character does Doug Jones plays at Saru? I don't remember. I only saw the first few episodes of Star Trek Discovery and bounced. I stopped watching it very early on. I think it's Saru, but yeah, they were going out of their way to say Saru was the first openly gay officer, and such is the first ginger officer, and such is the first black Asian lead officer. I don't remember, but it was incredibly fucking stupid. Anyway, I'm getting off track. So let me get back to this from the beginning. Was heralded as the first Trek show to be headed by a black female lead, plus marked other firsts along the way, such as LGBTQ representation, as well as pioneered a more serialized storytelling format for the 50-year-old franchise. I think that this was the biggest point of criticism right here, was the fact that Star Trek Discovery was so hyper serialized. And I know people that genuinely like Star Trek Discovery, but even if you are a fan of Star Trek Discovery, you have to acknowledge that Star Trek Discovery was so unlike any other Star Trek show that came prior, because it was so hyper serialized, even more hyper serialized than Deep Space Nine, right? Star Trek Deep Space Nine was not just about the Dominion War, right? It was not called Star Trek the Dominion War. It was called Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Right, Deep Space Nine had a lot more going on than just the Dominion War and just about the conflict between the Bajorans and the Cardassians. I almost said Kardashians, which would have been really funny, but still, there was a lot more going on Deep Space Nine than just the Dominion War. Everybody always talks about Deep Space Nine. Oh, it was all about the Dominion War. It was all about the Dominion War. No. Go back and actually watch Deep Space Nine. There was a lot more going on than just the Dominion War, right? But with Star Trek Discovery taking on this hyper-serialized approach that every episode is building off the previous, what that means is that if they have a really bad storyline, they can't just drop it and move on. You're stuck with it. Right, I think that this is where the real point of contention came from the Alex Kurtzman era of Trek. I would argue that the identity politics played a role in it, But with shows like Star Trek Discovery and Picard being so hyper serialized, unlike any other Star Trek show that came before it, that's where the point of contention was. Discovery also helped launch CBS's streaming service, then called CBS All Access, now currently called Paramount Plus, and currently stands as Paramount Plus's longest-running drama. The success of Discovery led to a multitude of other Trek projects being developed, including animated shows Lower Decks and Prodigy. Quote, when we first started talking about the return of Star Trek 8 years ago, we never could have imagined the indelible impact Star Trek Discovery would have, said David Staff, president of CBS Studios. The series brought back a beloved global franchise, and just like its predecessors, Discovery honored Star Trek's legacy of infinite diversity and infinite combinations. I thought Star Trek's legacy was exploring strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man or no one has gone before, depending on which show you watch. The original series ended with where no man has gone before, but then by the time the Next Generation rolled around, it was changed to where no one has gone before. But still, I thought Star Trek's legacy was I had a brain fart there, but still, I thought Star Trek's legacy was to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. But anyway, I'll get back to it. The series brought back a beloved global franchise, and just like its predecessors, Discovery honors Star Trek's legacy of infinite diversity and infinite combinations, representing the best of what we could be as humans when we celebrate our differences. The move comes on the heels of Paramount Plus announcing that another member of its Trek team, Star Trek Picard, will wrap with its current third season. Now, to be fair to Star Trek Picard, and they don't go into this article does not go into this. Star Trek Picard was always designed to be a 3-season show. So, Star Trek Picard is wrapping up its third season. That means it wasn't popular. No, it was always planned to be a 3-season show from the beginning. Patrick Stewart confirmed that before the first season even came out. And this article goes into, like the Discovery team issued statements about the decision, but I'm not gonna read these at all, because it's mostly just corporate speak in the style of, we are so proud of the talented people that worked on these shows from the beginning, blah 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 blah. So let's just go ahead. Let's just skip down to the rest of the meat and potatoes here. The decision follows Paramount Global CFO Naveen Chopra telling an investor conference on February 28th of 2023, that the company might spend less on streaming content in 2024 than previously forecast due to the integration of Paramount Plus and Showtime. The departure of Discovery secures its spin-off Star Trek Strange New Worlds, the undisputed new captain of Paramount Plus' Star Trek series fleet. Strange New Worlds embraced the more Planet of the Week style of the original series and launched last May to a 99% positive score on Rotten Tomatoes. The Paramount Plus said Strange New Worlds was the most watched new Trek series on the service over its first 90 days, and the company touted the series in a Super Bowl ad last month. The show returns for season 2 sometime this year. Kurtzman has also teased the development of another potential spin-off, Star Trek Academy, which would focus on a new generation of young cadets. Nothing has been officially announced yet on that front, however. Kurtzman is one of Paramount Global's most important producers and has delivered hits outside of the Trek franchise for Paramount Plus through his deal with CBS Studios. Yes, he was behind. For those that don't know, he was actually behind the reboot of Hawaii Five-0 that ran for 10 seasons. So again, they're not wrong when he said that he has delivered hits outside of Star Trek. He inked his second 9-figure deal overall with the David Staff-led CBS Studios in 2021. So yeah, the tease, Kurtzman teased the development of Star Trek Academy. How's that Section 31 series coming along there, Kurtzman? Oh, you keep teasing it, but it never comes of it. So, like I said in the beginning, like I said about 7-8 minutes ago, I told you to remember this part because we're going to circle back to this. But with this move to end the show, there will be additional filming to help. I jumped ahead. Sources say principal filming of the season is mostly complete, referring to Star Trek Discovery season 5. But with this move to end the show, there will be additional filming to help craft a conclusion for the series. Right. The point that I want to make too is this. You can tell from this section right here that the 5th season of Star Trek Discovery was not intended to be the final. And I think Paramount Plus ending Star Trek Discovery is very, very simple. It is not as popular as the other Star Trek shows. Now, I'm going to ignore Star Trek Picard in this regard because, as I said, Star Trek Picard was always intended to be a 3-season show irregardless. So I think that's why that show got its 3rd season, because if it was going to wrap up in 3 seasons anyway, well, no harm in finishing a show like that. But if you compare Star Trek Discovery to that of even, Star Trek Lower Decks, Star Trek Lower Decks has better review scores than Star Trek Discovery does on both the critical side and even the audience side. Now I will give you this. The first season of Star Trek Lower Decks is very rough, but it does get a lot better by the second season. In fact, I argue there has not been there was not a single bad episode in the second season of Lower Decks. The only bad episode of Star Trek Lower Decks comes in the 3rd season with the return of Peanut Hamper, the episode of Mathematically Perfect Redemption. That was the only bad episode of Star Trek Lower Decks to come out after the first season. Otherwise, Star Trek Lower Decks overall is a really good show. Star Trek Prodigy, 94% average tomato meter score. Now, granted, this is only after the first season, but still, 94% average tomato meter score from critics, 74% average audience score. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, 99% average tomato meter score, 80% average audience score. Star Trek Discovery, average tomato meter is 85%, but average audience score is only 36%. So if you were Paramount looking at it, why wouldn't you put in more resources into Star Trek Strange New Worlds, especially with, hold on, let me make sure that I'm reading this right. Why wouldn't you put in more resources into Strange New Worlds when they admitted that Strange New Worlds was the most watched new Trek series on the service over its first 90 days, right? Why wouldn't you put in more resources into continuing Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Prodigy, and Star Trek Lower Decks, given that those are the more popular shows right now? And I will end the video off with this. Say what you want about Star Trek Discovery and how divisive it was, but the one good thing to come out of Star Trek Discovery was the creation of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, was Anson Mount's Captain Christopher Pike, Ethan Peck's Spock, and Rebecca Romaine's number 1. And that cannot be taken away from Star Trek Discovery. However, if that was Star Trek Discovery's biggest achievement, then yeah, the show was never that great to begin with. And guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end this right here before I drag this out way longer than it needs to be. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you've been following along, I'm terrible at ending these videos, so I will just see you guys next time.